The year is 2027. The world is a tinderbox. Political tensions run high, global powers clash, old wounds fester, new threats emerge. The South China Sea simmers with tension. The Taiwan Strait is a flashpoint. The Korean Peninsula remains divided. The Middle East is a cauldron of unrest. Europe is a patchwork of alliances and rivalries. The specter of nuclear war hangs over everything. The world holds its breath. Will diplomacy prevail, or will the world plunge into the abyss? A new battlefield emerges, cyberspace. Nations engage in a silent war. Hackers infiltrate critical infrastructure. They disrupt financial markets. They spread disinformation. Cyber attacks escalate. Power grids go dark. Communication networks collapse. Financial systems freeze. Panic spreads like wildfire. The line between peace and war blurs. Is this an act of aggression or an act of sabotage? The world teeters on the brink. The stakes have never been higher. The future of civilization hangs in the balance. The countdown has begun.
Dawn breaks over the South China Sea. The USS Fitzgerald, an American destroyer, patrols contested waters. Chinese warships approach. Tensions rise. A Chinese destroyer crosses the bow of the Fitzgerald. It's a deliberate provocation, a miscalculation. The Fitzgerald fires warning shots. The Chinese destroyer responds with live fire. The first shots of World War III echo across the waves. The South China Sea erupts in violence. News of the clash spreads like wildfire. Global markets crash. Fear grips the world. The unthinkable has happened. War has begun.
The United States unleashes its military might. Aircraft carriers steam towards the South China Sea. Stealth bombers take to the skies. Missiles rain down on Chinese targets. China retaliates with cyber attacks. American power grids flicker. Communication networks are disrupted. The first salvos of a digital war are launched. Alliances are activated. NATO declares war on China. Russia sides with China. The world divides into two armed camps. The conflict escalates rapidly. Nuclear tensions soar. The doomsday clock ticks closer to midnight. Humanity stands on the precipice. The war spreads like a virus. Battles rage across the globe. From the Korean Peninsula to the Middle East, from Europe to Africa, the world is engulfed in conflict.
Millions are displaced from their homes. Cities are reduced to rubble. The death toll climbs exponentially. The horrors of war become a daily reality.
The global economy collapses. Supply chains break down. Food and fuel shortages become widespread. The fabric of civilization begins to unravel.
In the face of unimaginable suffering, a glimmer of hope emerges. A global peace movement takes root. Millions demand an end to the bloodshed. Will their voices be heard?
Europe, a continent steeped in history, now a battleground once more. The Eastern Front explodes with violence. NATO and Russian forces collide.
The North European plain becomes a sea of mud and blood. Tanks churn the earth. Artillery rains fire from the sky. Soldiers fight and die in the trenches. The fog of war descends. Propaganda fills the airwaves. Truth becomes the first casualty. Fear and uncertainty rule the day. Narrator, media. Fear and uncertainty, war city, town, battlefield, war, destruction. Cities become fortresses, towns become battlefields. The front lines shift constantly. Victory is measured in meters, in casualties, in sheer grit.
Kiev, a city of beauty and history. Now, a symbol of resistance. Russian forces lay siege to the Ukrainian capital. The defenders fight back with everything they have. Street fighting rages for days. Snipers take aim from rooftops. Tanks rumble through the streets. Civilians huddle in basements, caught in the crossfire. Riga, the jewel of the Baltic, now a target of Russian aggression. NATO forces rush to defend the city. The battle for Latvia begins. The streets are littered with debris. Buildings are reduced to rubble. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of death. Yet the human spirit refuses to be broken. Section 3. The Siege of Warsaw. Warsaw, the heart of Poland. Now, a city under siege. Russian forces encircle the capital. 1 million people are trapped inside. Food and supplies run low. Hospitals are overwhelmed. The city's infrastructure crumbles. Still, the people of Warsaw refuse to surrender. They build barricades. They form resistance groups. They fight back with Molotov cocktails and whatever weapons they can find. Their courage inspires the world. The Siege of Warsaw becomes a symbol of defiance, a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Section 4. The human cost. The human cost of the war is staggering. Millions are dead. Tens of millions are displaced. Entire cities lie in ruins. The world mourns. Families are torn apart. Children are orphaned. The physical and psychological scars of war will last for generations. Refugees flee the fighting. They seek safety in neighboring countries. They overwhelm borders and strain resources. The world grapples with the largest refugee crisis in human history. Amidst the devastation, there are stories of hope, acts of kindness, moments of grace, proof that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit endures.
The war has taken everything from us, our homes, our loved ones, but we still have hope. We hold on to our humanity, even when everything else is lost.
Section 1. The Shadow of Armageddon. The war rages on. Months turn into years. Victory remains elusive. Desperation grips the warring nations. The unthinkable becomes the possible. Nuclear weapons, the ultimate deterrent. The sword of Damocles hangs over the world. Each nation knows the stakes. Total annihilation. Whispers of nuclear escalation spread through the corridors of power. Military leaders advise caution. Politicians weigh the risks. The world holds its breath. Is this the end? Will humanity destroy itself in a blinding flash? The fate of civilization rests on a knife's edge. One wrong move could spell doom.
A tactical nuclear weapon is detonated. The sky turns white hot. A mushroom cloud rises over the desert. The world watches in horror. Narrator. Media. Middle East nuclear aftermath. Global horror conflict. The Middle East, a region already scarred by conflict. Now, a nuclear tinderbox. Tensions boil over. A miscalculation. A provocation.
50,000 souls vanish in an instant, vaporized by the unimaginable heat. The lucky ones. The survivors face a slow, agonizing death from radiation sickness.
The world condemns the attack, but it's too late. The line has been crossed. The nuclear taboo is broken. Fear and outrage grip the globe.
The fallout from the nuclear blast spreads, carried by the winds across borders, invisible, insidious, deadly. Panic grips the world.
Governments scramble to respond. Radiation detectors are deployed. Iodine pills are distributed, but it's not enough. The damage is done.
The global peace movement finds new urgency. Millions take to the streets. From London to Beijing, from Washington to Moscow, they demand an end to the madness.
World leaders face immense pressure. The specter of nuclear annihilation looms large. The time for diplomacy is now. The future of humanity hangs in the balance.
From the ashes of war, a new force emerges. Not a military force, but a force of will. The will of the people. The people have had enough.
Across the globe, a cry for peace rings out. From the ruins of bombed-out cities to the steps of government buildings, humanity unites in its desperation.
Mothers who have lost sons, children who have lost their innocence. They all raise their voices in unison. Their message is clear. No more war.
The world is at a crossroads. Continue down the path of destruction or choose a different future. The people have made their choice. They choose peace. Section 2. The power of the people. The global peace movement swells. Millions, then billions join the chorus demanding an end to the war.
Social media becomes a tool for change. Celebrities use their platforms to amplify the message of peace. Musicians hold benefit concerts. Artists create works of art that speak to the horrors of war.
Politicians, once deaf to the pleas of their people, can no longer ignore the growing dissent. The ground is shifting beneath their feet.
The people have found their voice, and they are using it to shake the foundations of the established order. The power of the people is undeniable. Section 3. A Glimmer of Hope. In the halls of power, a shift occurs. the intransigence that fueled the war begins to crack. The cries for peace have penetrated the thickest walls. World leaders, once eager to escalate the conflict, now feel the heat of public opinion. The threat of being swept away by the tide of peace is too great. Back channels open, tentative steps towards dialogue are taken. The world watches with bated breath. Can peace be salvaged from the brink? A glimmer of hope emerges from the darkness. It is a fragile hope, easily extinguished, but it offers a chance for a different future. Section 4, at the negotiation table, Geneva, Switzerland. A city known for its neutrality. Now, a city on the cusp of history. Representatives from all the warring nations gather. The atmosphere is thick with tension. Old adversaries sit across from each other, the weight of millions of lives lost hanging between them. The negotiations are grueling. Every word is weighed, every concession a gamble. The fate of the world hangs in the balance. Days turn into weeks. The world watches and waits. Can these leaders, who led their nations into war, find a path to peace? The stalemate on the Eastern Front drags on, but the tide begins to turn. Western resolve stiffens. Military aid flows to NATO forces. A daring offensive is launched. NATO troops, backed by air power, punch through Russian lines. The Siege of Warsaw is broken. In cyberspace, the West gains the upper hand. A sophisticated counteroffensive cripples Russian command and control. Chaos reigns. The Chinese economy, battered by sanctions and cyber attacks, teeters on the brink of collapse. Internal unrest grows. The regime weakens. The momentum shifts decisively in favor of the Western alliance. Victory, once elusive, now seems within reach. The end is in sight. Exhausted by war, the major powers agree to a ceasefire. Negotiations for a lasting peace begin in earnest. The world watches and prays. The Treaty of Geneva is signed, formally ending World War III. The terms are harsh but necessary. A new world order is established. The United Nations is reformed and strengthened. A global peacekeeping force is created. Strict controls are placed on weapons of mass destruction. The road to recovery will be long and arduous. But the world breathes a collective sigh of relief. The nightmare is over, for now. The lessons of World War III are etched in blood and fire. The cost of conflict, too high to bear. The future, uncertain. But there is hope. World War III is over. The guns have fallen silent. But the world is forever changed. The scars of war run deep. Millions lie dead. Cities lie in ruins. The global economy is in shambles. The environment bears the brunt of conflict. The psychological toll is immeasurable. Survivors bear the trauma of war. PTSD, grief, and survivors' guilt become commonplace. The world mourns its losses, families torn apart, futures shattered. The true cost of war can never be repaid.
Yet amidst the devastation, the human spirit flickers, the will to survive, to rebuild, to hope.
A fragile peace settles over the world. The Treaty of Geneva, a beacon of hope, but the threat of conflict still lingers. The lessons of war must be learned. The importance of diplomacy, the futility of violence, the need for global cooperation. The world must confront the challenges that led to war. Poverty, inequality, climate change, extremism, these are the true enemies. The future is unwritten. The choices we make today will determine the fate of humanity. Will we repeat the mistakes of the past?
Or will we forge a new path? A path of peace, sustainability, and shared prosperity? The choice is ours. The time is now.